Let's look at your Rachel Reeves. Let's look at the finance and the budget crisis has also been hitting the headline this week. The OBR has just handed Reeves a 20 billion productivity black hole. You've warned that excessive taxation kills growth. Talk to me though. Let me know your tweet. I'll remind you of this, or posting rather on X on October the 27th. You said, "When will these idiots realize that excessive taxation reduces economic activity, damages capital values, and the economy, resulting in less tax being collected?" Talk to me then, Ben. How would Advance reverse this perfect storm of imported inflation and bond jitters in your first budget? What would you do?
So let's just first understand one thing. If you wish to prevent an individual from doing something, such as speeding, you impose a fine on them, don't you? They get flashed by a camera and they get fined. Taxation is a fine. And the reason they get fined when they break the speed limit is because you want to deter them from doing that. So when you tax people when they work, actually what you're doing is creating an impediment to work. You're telling people don't work. That's what taxation is. When you tax people on work, you're basically saying you're fining them for working. So we want the minimum amount of tax required in order to function as a state, to provide the very basic functions that a state needs to provide. Because any taxation beyond that is an impediment to wealth creation by definition. And we know that because you stop speeding every time you get a penalty fee. So we know what the impact of taxation is. It's to deter work. So we want the lowest possible taxation. We have a level of tax as a proportion of GDP that it's the highest it's been since World War II. So the notion that Rachel Reeves can sort the problems of the country out by taxing us even more, in other words, penalizing us even more for working, is fundamentally wrong. We should be able to reach that conclusion in the few minutes that I hope I've made it clear on this program, that further taxation is not going to solve this country's problems. It is going to create more problems. What she has to do is bite the unpalatable bullet of welfare and overspend, net zero, benefits for foreigners, foreign aid, massive welfare payments, rewarding people who are staying at home rather than people who are working. And then she's got to cut taxes at the same time as making sure that people can't live at home with doing nothing. She's got to make it attractive to work. She's got to remove the penalties of work so that people feel that they can go into work. Instead of being a country that redistributes an ever diminishing level of wealth, we need to become a country that creates wealth. And you can only do that by having aspiration. You can only have aspiration if you're allowed to keep what you earn. If you're not allowed to keep what you earn, you will stop working. And it's that basic, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's that basic.
Oh no, absolutely. Well, Kemi Badenoch's come out. I mean, it seems inevitable. Everything ringing in people's ears about the Labour promise not to raise taxes. She comes up with this sound bite saying, "Well, if Rachel Reeves raises tax, give her the axe." You've also talked about Rachel Reeves being caught red-handed on the rental license hypocrisy. Is this the tipping point for a no confidence vote?
No, I don't think so. No, this Labour government's got far too big a majority and they don't give a damn. I mean, the digital ID is perhaps one of the most unpopular policies they've come out with. They've come out with a lot of unpopular stuff, but I think there's a groundswell of opinion against it, and yet they're going to drive it through anyway.
Yeah. And do you think it's their poll tax moment? People have said that's the case.
Yeah, but I mean, Maggie's poll tax moment resulted in her being ejected from office. It may be Starmer's poll tax moment, but it's not going to result in an election or a vote of no confidence in the government and the government falling. I don't see that happening.